Welcome back. If it felt like the JSE was a busy place again, it's only because every top 40 company and his dog released results this week, some of them all on one day. So here's to the SENS overload, and for the most part, it wasn't pretty. Let's go back to what we like to call Impairment Monday and Sasol's distinctly underwhelming numbers.
As we've indicated to the market, our gas fields that we started to flow in 2004 is in the decline. And so we've signaled to the market that the PPA gas field that was the source of gas that supply the industrial users in South Africa will be declining from that period. And we've given that as a heads up so that there's ample time in preparation to mitigate that decline through other sources of capital. We're very pleased that in November that the DTIC has convened a forum to look at bringing gas into South Africa. It would be LNG.
So given the SENS overload, I actually used the wrong clip there.
See that.
Not the clip on the impairments that I had intended to play, but actually that's another issue that has come out of the last couple of weeks, this day zero for industrial gas supply. I mean, yet another own goal, really.
I don't know. Who's still investing in these businesses?
I
Sasfin.
don't know where they're going to get it. I mean, there's plenty of gas in the world, but not to be piped from Mozambique to the Vaal, yeah.
And on Sasol's results, the impairment, I mean, Sasol, you look at it and you think it's just not really investable.
No. They've come all the way. Where they at 80 Rand or what?
No, they're still about 140.
No, but they were 400 not too long ago.
They were 600.
Dramatically. That's the trouble, is that I keep looking at all these stocks that are coming out with their reports, and all the charts are going from top left to the bottom right, and just the same kind of trend. There's only one which I found was Advotech went the other way. I celebrated. I could not believe that I found a share that went from bottom left to top right, So
Richmond.
There's more. Okay, we'll pick you up on the more than a few of those.
Richmond's okay.
Yeah. I got to say, I thought the Sasol impairments could have been more. I mean, it comes to the point that
they will
investable.
Without prolonging this, you're going to find that because you're not making economic value on the cost of those assets in your book, so you have to write them down. The only thing is it fudges it, because from next year you look wonderful. Our return on capital is 15%.
Remember the refrain, a write-down's not a cash event. It was cash when it came in.
Yep.
It was cash on the way in. As for motors, it's not great when people aren't exactly splashing out on a new Merc and interest rates are high, which is the same refrain at Carp International too.
What happened to Motors is that Motors borrowed money for the acquisition. We borrowed money for stocks that we've got. We've got a bit of excess stock. And then our car rental fleet went up significantly. And as a result, the interest bill has ballooned, and that's caused the problem for the headline earnings. But from a trading point of view, we're in a comfortable position. The interest bill we've got to bring down by June, which we hope we will.
A reduction in interest rates will be very positive for us. As I said, we have elevated debt levels currently as a result of our capital projects. And we anticipate, as I said, those capital projects being completed in our second half, coming into production in the next year, generating cash and allowing us to de-gear. And the combination of reducing debt levels with reducing interest rates will obviously be very positive from an earnings perspective.
This was the other trend of earnings. So we've known the interest rates hurting the consumer. Suddenly we've seen them hurting the businesses.
They want to sell Unitrans as well, which I think has always been a good business.
He said to me, I spoke with him, he says, no, look, they got offer, they'll look at it, but it had a tough time. They had a currency issue because they're on mines, and one of their mines in the rest of the continent, something went wrong.
Is that why they want to sell Unitrans?
No, that's why Unitrans did so badly.
Yeah,
they just got an offer. Someone
business.
made an offer.
But the problem is that companies are now starting to sell assets in order to get, in order to get debt. I was looking at, and I asked the question we asked the other night with Wayne. I looked at Woolworths. I saw their debt levels were 4.3 billion from a couple of 100 million. And no one picked it up. I said, and I kept saying, well, this is just seasonal, because Pick n Pay, the same thing. Debt 3 billion to 6 billion. So I don't know what's happening.
7.8 billion.
Is it? Yeah, I don't know.
Billion here or there.
Yeah,
it's compounding in the wrong direction.
Yes, basically.
And you can't pray that interest rates come down. You can't put a business or gear a business up like that and say, well, let's hope that interest rates come down. So you've got, which is what I said before, just function. or put your company in a position where it can function without worrying about interest rates.
But this is strange because it means a lot more JSE listed, SA Africa focused businesses are going to come back to the market for rights issues. Because I mean, if debt levels are increasing, you have to find a way to service this debt. But there's finite shareholders who hold the stock, and there are finite pockets.
Well, Coronation
the same
PRC,
person
right?
that owns CAP is the same person that owns Motus is the same person that owns, I don't know, transaction. It's going to be a tough.
So I mean, I think in the case of CAP, and he's completely right. Okay, Safripol was a disaster, but they're building a giant plant for PG Bison, so that's 2 years of expense and no revenue, and then it starts to flow, but the interest rates have hurt.
But Safripol is an international business because it deals in international polyurethane. What's it?
And that price has
price is not made by us. Yeah,
it's just collapsed.
Well, when it comes to the SA consumer, we'd say the temperature is distinctly lukewarm. Not exactly dead, but hardly all fired up and flinging the cash about. Think Woolies, Cash Builds and Spur.
We've seen that customers are spending less in terms of smaller projects. So the decorative type items, your paint, your floor tiles, your decorative ceilings and cornices, those items are still doing fairly well in our business. The structural items, the cement, the bricks, those things are struggling. And that is an indication that people are not necessarily starting any big projects at the moment. And our customers are typically the bakkie builders. They make up 60% of our revenue roughly.
We haven't seen any shift in average spend. Our average spend is still growing, and it's growing sort of on menu inflation. We are probably seeing a shift on consumer choices. Okay. So I think people are looking for value for their money spent. So I think they are choosing the plate options or the meal options that give them good value. So a good portion of chips, a good portion of onion rings, and a great piece of protein.
We gave you a project last time to go have a meal at Spur. Have you?
No.
I haven't.
Although now that
I
you're talking
have.
about a great piece of protein, a good portion of chips, and a good portion of onion rings, I'm quite keen.
Quite hungry. I haven't been to a Spur in over 20 years. I didn't have kids.
Honestly, I think value for money, they're superb.
Those results from Spur weren't bad.
But did you see how many water projects they've got?
Yes.
How many stores they have to put on their own water supply? You can't ignore that. It comes back to what I was saying in the early stages, is that the amount of money just to get water and electricity and things like that. There's another thing that's happening. Go out at night. The restaurants are empty. Nobody wants to drive at night. Potholes.
Street lights not working.
You're going to the wrong place. I'm in Rosebank, man. I mean, last night.
Yeah, but you live inside
that traffic.
But it's Americans there.
No, this was people in cars backed up to Jan Smuts on a Thursday night to go and have.
Is it Puza Thursday? Is that why?
I don't know what it was. It wasn't first. It was something. Quickly back to Woolies. So what we saw with Woolies, and we've seen it. Well, Pick and Pay, but even Shoprite, volumes declining.
Yeah.
60/60 is coming for everyone's lunch, breakfast, and dinner, it seems.
I try to run them over when I drive.
No, David, no.
You know what the best thing was?
You're not a Shoprite shareholder.
And Put some money in the jerk jar here.
I can't see them. They come from so many different angles. They terrorize.
I was reminded, and this isn't even 60/60. This is the Shoprite Saver card. On your birthday, you get a free sweetie pie.
Sweetie pie? What is a sweetie pie?
It's a little biscuit with stuff and
I feel like we're talking to someone who lives under a rock here.
Yeah,
no, he lives in America most of the time, and you're starting to see it now.
I'm going to bring David some sweetie pies. Yes, SA Banks for sale on regardless, and no rate cuts anytime soon. So enjoy that endowment effect while it lasts.
We still think there's growth in our domestic market. I mean, this is by far our biggest business. It's our most mature business. And so, as you can see in this period, we are still growing our customer base. So customers were up 5%. Volumes were up nicely. Transactional volumes were up 7%. So that's good. So if we can keep that ticking over, and then also seeing what extra business we can do with our existing customers.
Let us say, if you look at the banks in South Africa, most of them are about 1 times book, not Sasfin. Then you've got First Rand at 2 times, and then you've got 6 times as Capitec. 2 times book, i.e. the value, the expensive bank, that was not good earnings.
No. Because they're not doing business.
Well, and where they're getting it from, there's no GDP.
If you looked at, yes, admittedly on the interest side, but on the other revenue side, slow, because nobody's doing anything.
There's no mergers, there's no
nothing.
acquisitions, there's
You
no
know, yeah,
IP
that's
work
how
to be
you
done.
make money. You make money through transactions.
There's
you
no
make money when
transactions.
the derivative markets are pumping. They're not doing it. Have you seen the volumes on the JSE? Apart from yesterday, which was the end of the tax year, they're 12 billion, 13 billion. There's just nothing happening.
Do you think it's also a reluctance to do anything until after the elections?
No, it's a reluctance to do anything.
No, there's not much to do. I don't think it's
Oh dear.
Just look at where the economy is.
You know, you can't, and I'll say this in the best possible way. I could go through numbers and say, okay, what can we look at? Where can we find some value and so on? And it's really, really difficult because the trends are all trending down. You can see the warnings that we're getting.
The Crystal Challenge is just a dart-throwing competition at this point.
Yeah. And finally, it's clearly been a great burden on the national psyche for years, decades, centuries even. And that is whether Yo Master Watsi is or is not a bad word. And we are here to spread great cheer and the delight of SA's best insult ever to inform you that no, puss is not a swear word, according to a recent court judgment involving a protection order violation. Just don't say it in polite company.
Yo Marsa, yeah.
Our poor judges. Years of practice, years. And you've got to do this.
And this is what you have to go through. But in sports, internationally now, you can say that because look, there's a judgment saying it's not.
Yeah, so Vita.
Just put the judgment and say, look at this, it's not a swear.
And that's where we leave it. David, Bright, thanks for joining us. That was the week that was. Have a good evening and a great weekend.